am so excited because my book, The Elegant and Edible Garden, is finally going to be released in April. And to celebrate, I'm going to be on the Talk Shop Live channel March 7th at 7 p.m. Eastern Time, 6 p.m. Central Standard Time, to talk all about it, to visit with you, interact with you about gardening and this book in particular. You'll be able to pre-order a signed copy. We will be able to have a real conversation about gardening. So make sure to put it on your calendar now. We will make sure to notify you when the channel goes live. And again, that's March 7th at 7 p.m. Eastern Time, 6 p.m. Central Standard Time. Make sure to put it on your calendar now. I hope I see you then. Everyone, and welcome to my Wednesday walkabout today. I am doing this one solo, so forgive any kind of erratic camera work. Stuart is taking a much needed short vacation in a beautiful part of Oklahoma, so I'm hoping he is having a great time. So I'm going to start out in the backyard. We are just now just about completely melted from all of the sleet we got last week. You can see a few remnants of it that is kind of hanging out in between the cracks and crevices of the flagstone. But yesterday was such a productive day, you guys. It is going to be beautiful all week. I don't even think the lows get below freezing. So this week, after last week's really cold temps, it's going to be beautiful here. And that leads me to my question of the day, I guess. What is the weather? Is it starting to moderate where you are? But secondly, my question of the day relates to these beautiful golden plants that I installed yesterday. And aren't they gorgeous? And so this is the second part of my question of the day. Do you guys like and do you use plants, be they evergreens or tender annuals or perennials, that have golden foliage or foliage, as some of you point out to me, because I think it can really illuminate a rather dark area. And this space that goes up to my breakfast room, those French doors, it can get rather dark over here. It does get sun, but nevertheless, it needs some illumination, which is going to be provided by this beautiful touch of gold holly, which are these little shrubs that I've planted in these pots. They get to a mature height of size of about 2 by 4, I think. And let me show you up close. They've got some variegation to them. And yes, they do have that boxwood quality. So that's one of the reasons I wanted to show them to you. They can handle partial shade, that's hard to say, up to full sun. But I find for me, they do a little bit better when they're in a rather protected area. So I've planted them in some of the pots here. There will be more container plantings that I will add to this area, as I do every year. Not as many as last year, however, because I am trying to be a little bit more restrained in my container plantings. This beautiful holly is a golden Oakland holly, and I had a round boxwood in here last year, and I really missed the verticality of having a taller specimen here. And again, I like the fact that this golden holly, Oakland holly, this is a southern living plant, both of these will really help to brighten up this space. So this is the first area that I wanted to show you. And because you'll probably ask, these pots, these English urns are part of my QVC collection, and I think they are back in stock, you guys. So by all means, they come in 2 different finishes. If you are interested in them, then you might check that out. I don't mean to sound like a commercial, but I also know many of you will ask, and this just gives me an opportunity to tell you that I think they are back in stock. So this is this back area, and there will be obviously a lot more activity in this space, but I was proud of that, and I wanted to show you those and also kind of give you a heads up on these Southern Living plants, because they are going to be perfect for this spot. And they will also echo some of the golden foliage I have growing in other areas. Now I'm going to show you a bit of an update on the front yard. But you guys, look here. This is one of the massive boxwood balls that I planted, or that I transplanted into this pot. Actually, it will probably just be here for the short term, but I dug it out from the front where it was crowding out a lot of the things in the landscape. And I'm not sure exactly where I'm going to place this, but it is a perfect globular form, and it will be beautiful back here someplace that will complement and accentuate the other spherical forms that I already have back here. And some of the other goings on activity back here. And yes, I did, you guys, I did get help with this, because a lot of this stuff, some of these things were really heavy. And I had, one thing that I did yesterday was I had them help me top dress all of my pots with some beautiful composted manure. They kind of scraped off the gravel, top dressed it, and then put the gravel back in place. And I think we did that on practically all of our pots, unless we ran out of the compost. And then they refreshened the gravel a little bit. Sorry for the high contrast here. But it is a beautiful morning. Can you hear those birds? And I think today it's supposed to get up in the 70s. In fact, later this week, I think it might even be getting up back into the 80s. So there's a hint of variegation in that spiral boxwood. And what else do we do back here? I'm being very conservative about removing a lot of the leafy mulch back here, because it could still get cold again. But I am doing it in, as I said, very conservatively. So there's also back here, we've put in a stake, and I'm not sure if it's been secured or not, but we've put in a metal stake to make that tall juniper back there, that ball on stem juniper, stand up straight, because it was starting to fall into the golden wagelia, which I am also going to be doing some pruning on. But I'm just trying to reduce the messiness and the noise of some of these plantings back here. As things have grown, they need to be relocated or pruned or transplanted. They, in other words, just need some kind of intervention. Oh, those birds make me happy. One thing that's going to be relocated is this boxwood. You can see that I started to remove some of the foliage from the bottom of it, and I'm going to probably transplant it and put something else that's more vertical in that area to replace something that was lost. But that will come a little bit later. And then back here underneath the Chinese snowball viburnum, there are all sorts of bulbs coming up. And I'd like your opinion on this. I have mixed feelings about it, but I'm thinking about starting to introduce some hellebore back here, because this is kind of a shady spot. And I'm not sure if I want to do that or not, because I kind of just, part of me likes the negative space in between the clumps of the Spanish bluebells and some of the other bulbs that will be coming up in here. Then I relocated a couple of these big pots back here that have bulbs planted in them. One you can see is a lot further along than the other. And I've got these cages on to prevent squirrels digging them. So a lot more choreography and pot placement needs to go on back here. But again, right now we're just trying to do the basics. And even though it's overgrown and needs pruning, I am so loving how this reduced in size boxwood hedge looks in the potager. To be pruning it, but here's what I am going to be doing. I had them top dress this in some good composted manure. Yes, it was aged. And I'm going to be planting greens, some spinach. And you may see back here also that I've got some of my plant towers in here. I actually got 2 plant towers for each quadrant. I don't even have the tags off of them yet. And I barely could decide which finish I want. And part of me still would like to have the galvanized, but the copper is beautiful. And even though it looks like there's too many of them right now, that will change over time as things start getting primped and pruned and perfect back here. And you can see down here that I planted along the border, I think I told you, some party punch tulips all along this brick walkway section. You can see some of the dirt was disrupted, and I'll tidy that up. But some of those bulbs are starting to come out, and I am hoping that this little walkway, you can see some more tips of the bulbs there, will be flanked with those really, really fun. Let me zoom out a little bit. Those fun tulips. Isn't that morning sun just glorious? And then we also did a slight top dressing with manure of this border, which has been kind of a problem for me this year because the weather has just been so wacky, and I'm having trouble getting my poppies to germinate and then persist. So, but I'm working on that. And then this tub here, this half wine barrel, which by the way I got at Lowe's. You can see that there's all sorts of bulbs coming up in here, or maybe you can't see through those chicken wire cloches, but there's lots of bulbs coming up in there. And then a lot of this will be softened with plantings of herbs and greens. I'm going to plant some spinach to start making some wonderful smoothies, and just leafy greens for salads. But already, even though the garden still looks rather barren, I think it's really going to be beautiful. Let me point out one other thing that relates to pruning flowering shrubs. So if they bloom in the spring, you prune after bloom. Now, fairly soon, in the next month or so, you're going to, if you grow crepe myrtles, you are going to want to prune your crepe myrtles, not crepe murder. You're just going to tip them off. But this stand right here, that's that gorgeous white deutzia, it really has gotten huge, and I'm going to let it be glorious and really do its thing and bloom in that very romantic and delicate white color that I so prize in the spring. But then once it blooms, I'm going to cut it back by almost 2/3 so that it doesn't overwhelm the space, and that it also gives room both visually and spatially for other things, the white wedding hydrangeas, the oak leaf hydrangeas, other things in the surrounding terrain. And I'm also going to be I was talking to my friend Victor, who helped me work out in the yard yesterday, about the plants that will be coming back from the greenhouse. Not yet, because it's very premature, but that I'm going to take a look at them first and really select which ones I want to come back and which ones I don't. Some of those may be gifted to other people, or I'm not sure what. And then it's pretty obvious to me that my outdoor dining table here is filthy. And I'm going to clean that today and get it shined up, because with the beautiful weather, we're going to be able to start eating outside here. And then in my minor bulb garden over here, what I used to refer to as the fish pond, and for years I had rickety rack brick as a border, but I decided it was becoming, it just wasn't working as well for a number of different reasons. So I removed it, and this will be filled with hyacinth and daffodils and muscari and different minor bulbs here pretty soon. And then there's maybe one final thing that I want to show you here, because I will be staging this back porch pretty soon. But one final thing, and this is another reason I needed help because it was very heavy. I transplanted from another pot. Boy, that glare is pretty brutal. But I transplanted from another pot this large conical shaped boxwood into this pot near the back door. We even gave it a slight trim because this is in a rather shaded area, so I'm not concerned about new growth being forced out and getting frostbit. But this whole area back here, I lost a lot last year. And in fact, I think what I'm going to do, because there's so many other things that I want to show you in the front, and I don't want this whole video to be prohibitively long, maybe I'll do an extra walkabout tomorrow of the front and show you some of the things that I did in the front. Because the thing that I think probably most was impressed upon me as we were working in the garden yesterday was just how much of last year was very much about survival and restoration, and not necessarily always doing what would create the most beautiful effect, but just ensuring that plants would survive. And I was more intent on recovery maybe than composition or beautification. And this year I am hoping that I will have the luxury of being far more occupied with that than with just making sure that plants are kind of healthy. So that is what is on my agenda for today, is to get that table cleaned off. You can see that I've got an urn on it that has some bulbs coming up, little daffodils that are coming up in it. And lots of the pots on my front porch are also, all of those bulbs are starting to come up. But definitely, if I want to enjoy this space, then I need to be ready to enjoy it. So I will clean it off. I've put some breadcrumbs over there for some birdies. And then I will just leave you once again with this last pretty sunshiny vision of these golden hollies over here. So please do make sure to let me know if it is starting to warm up in some ways in your area, if you feel like spring is going to arrive. And then perhaps more importantly, I want to know your thoughts on golden foliage, because I know so many people some people just love it, as I do, but other people really don't. And again, no right or wrong answer. It's just the effect you're trying to create, to personalize and style your own garden in the way that speaks to your own aesthetic. But tell me what you think about these golden plants, and we'll try to provide some links to these beautiful specimens. So there you go. There is your Wednesday walkabout. I hope that the day where you are is as beautiful as it is here. And I'll just close by saying that certainly all of those in Ukraine are in our thoughts, in our prayers. We support you, and we definitely are thinking and praying for you, thinking about you and praying for you. So there you go. There's your Wednesday walkabout.